What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL podcast, the official podcast of the All 22 fantasy football platform, the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, which includes offensive linemen, where you get to choose personnel packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more and sign up, go to all-22.com. Ray, draft is over, man. It's kind of like, it's this weird feeling because for so long you see these players getting mocked to different places, and in your head, they like, I don't know, for example, Amarius Mims, he plays for 5 different teams because in your head you had him mocked to 5 different teams, and now he's a Bengal, and you now have to like reconfigure your wiring in your brain to be like, Amarius Mims is a Bengal. Is that just me, or do you feel that way too?
That's not how it's just hard to me to keep track of everybody. Like what happens is, yeah, I had someone on 5 different teams in my mind, and then 200 plus players just went somewhere. And I'm like, I can't remember all of this. Like, I remember the quarterbacks. I remember a couple edge rushers. And then I got to like think like every time. I feel like I'm an idiot when I try to recall something that I was talking about for the last like 5 months. And now that it actually happened, I'm like, oh yeah, where did he end up again? Oh, where'd Darius Robinson go? Like, you got to think for a second,
Bro.
Or it could just be lack of sleep because we both have children now. Like that could just be it too,
That could be it
That's
too.
probably it.
I actually find myself like, instead of counting sheep, I'll go pick 1 was Caleb Williams to the Bears. Pick 2 was Jaden Tanner to the Commanders. Like, and I think I get to like 14 or 15 before I just can't remember anymore. So I'm proud of myself for getting that far.
When you get to the defense, then you
yeah.
That's it. Then
I think Latu is the last. I was like, Latu went to the Colts, and then what? Yeah. But anyway, it's been really exciting. It's been fun, and we are kind of doing some fun stuff over at All 22, right? We have the awesome responsibility of ranking all of these players now in our player rankings, right? So not just where we see them as, with the rest of the rookies is Caleb Williams QB1 with the rookies, but it's now where is Caleb Williams on the Bears in relation to every quarterback in the NFL, right? So that's kind of the fun task we have. And remember, this is Dynasty. So when we're trying to figure out Dynasty rankings, age is important, landing location is important, coaching staff is important. So I thought it might be kind of fun, right? As we begin this exercise, Ray and I doing in the background, why don't we bring it to the forefront, have a really fun discussion since there were 6 first-round quarterbacks taken. Why don't we do it live, right? Go on the air, talk about why we have guys ranked where we do or why we think they should be ranked where they are. And then when we come out of this episode, I will literally use what we come up with in our rankings and we'll update the system. I think that's kind of fun.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. I'm fighting a cold right now. I got some cough medicine in me. This is going to be wild. Yeah. And so for those that, again, maybe unfamiliar, right? Stan Lee said everybody, every comic is someone's first. So this is your first All 22 podcast, right? All 22 fantasy football platform where we use PFF grading and positional weights to score players on the field. So it's as if you're starting an NFL franchise from scratch. If the NFL threw every player into a pool and just had a startup draft, kind of like in Madden franchise mode, this is that same thing. You would go after quarterbacks first. Given our positional weights, that's how you do it here too. Christian McCaffrey is not going first overall in our fantasy draft. It's going to be a quarterback, Mahomes, Burrow, whoever, right? So these rookie quarterbacks, their rankings matter. Where would Caleb Williams be drafted if every player in the NFL was thrown in a pool tomorrow? How soon would Caleb Williams go? Very interesting question. We're going to go down the list of the rookie quarterbacks and answer that for each of them. And I don't even know how I'm going to rank these guys.
I don't know if we're going to go that far. I think today what we do is we rank them with the rest of the quarterbacks, determining where those guys then land in the ranks of everyone.
No. Yeah, of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. Just want to make that very clear because that's a whole other animal that we have to attack. Which is awesome.
Start throwing Terry and Arnold into these rankings, and forget about it. That's too much math.
Exactly. Okay, so the way we're going to do this, we're going to share the All 22 platform on the screen. You all can see it if you've never seen it before. It's kind of awesome. So I hope you check it out. And let's kind of just jump into it, right? I mean, so for those that don't know this, right, every year we go through, we update the rankings. And I did this 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Just so that before the draft, if people wanted to get in there and do mock drafts, they have some updated information to do that with. So if you look at the list now, right, the top of the list is full of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Stroud, Herbert, Love, Tua, Purdy. agree or disagree. It doesn't really matter at this point in time. But actually, go back up, Ray, because I mean, again, this is the first time people are seeing this
Look at
potentially.
my magnificent logo.
Yeah. So Ray's the melon head's pretty cool. Some cool things at the top for those that, again, first timers. Ray's one trophy, and it's a T-shirt, which means he's kind of ass. It means he like made the playoffs once.
Oh my gosh!
You got your record.
Okay.
You got your record. You got your budget. Fun tabs up top, right? Your league home, my team. Just go to the my team page. Actually, you know what? Don't go anywhere. Let's stay here. You don't want to make things messy.
You want to give me away just trade secrets just right off the bat? 5 minutes.
Let's maybe hold back some things, but go explore. There's a lot of cool stuff here. Then you can go back to scrolling down. This is the players list, right? This is your free agency page. It's your rankings page. It's where you can go to get information. It's where you can go to find players that you want to make trades with. You could sort this a million different ways, right? You could go by points. You could go by PFF grade, bunch of different things. It's an extremely useful tool. In my opinion, it's probably the most important tool in all 22 when making kind of like trade decisions or maybe even draft decisions. So now getting to the quarterbacks, right? We went over some stuff. Again, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, Lawrence, Stroud, Herbert, Love, Tua, Purdy. When we're talking about Caleb Williams, we're talking about a generational, maybe that's a word we shouldn't use anymore, but we're talking about a once in a maybe a decade type talent at quarterback. People talk about him being the next Trevor Lawrence. You can see Trevor Lawrence is QB6 on this list. Obviously, landing spot matters, right? So Trevor Lawrence went to maybe a less than ideal landing spot, and he's done pretty well there. And I think if he went to the Chiefs, we'd probably be talking about Trevor Lawrence in a much different light. He'd probably be maybe 1 through 4 on this list, maybe even higher. But that's kind of the conversation that needs to happen. So when you start to talk about Caleb Williams, what's going to go into that for you, Ray? What kind of things are you thinking about? And is there a chance that he is somewhere on this list with the players that are showing?
He is 100% somewhere on this list. And again, I'm ceiling guy. So a lot of times, people worry about floor and, well, how safe of a pick is this player? If I know your capabilities and I believe you have enough football acumen to reach your potential to some reasonable probability, I'm going to rank you pretty darn high. So that does not mean I love someone like Patrick Paul, right? That's different. But if I think you're good at football and have enough acumen to reach your ceiling, you're going to be very high if you have the physical capability of Caleb Williams. So to answer that first question, yes, he is definitely in this grouping and not near the bottom.
Okay. Answer the second question. So what things go into your evaluation when you're trying to make that decision? I'll give you my answer after, but I'll let you go first.
So again, just you first as an individual player, how good are you? What is your ceiling? What tools do you have? And then separate from that is, what is your situation around you? If you're a quarterback, like we're talking about here, Caleb Williams, how good is your offensive line? How good are your weapons? Is your team completely cash strapped and in salary cap messes? Or is it a well-run organization, right? If you're a good quarterback prospect or you're a promising prospect with some upside and you go to the Jets like Sam Darnold a handful of years ago, that's a just mega poor landing spot. That will bring you down in my eyes. Now, when you look at Caleb Williams, that's not the case. People are calling it a very advantageous situation for a rookie quarterback. But those are the three main pillars I look for is, okay, you're a young player. How good are you, first and foremost, right? Because talent trumps all. And then what is your situation like from a personnel standpoint? Your supporting cast. For a quarterback, that's your offensive line and that's your weapons. And then third, after that is coaching staff, coaching stability, and how that meshes with, is there an offensive system in place there that is very helpful to you, right? The Shanahan system, for example, and how the amount of easy throws and the opportunities that they create for big plays schematically. That's third, because coaching turnover is pretty frequent in the NFL, right? You can't bank on that for a long-term prospect. But if you're looking at a rookie like this, these formative years are very important, and their supporting cast is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. That's basically the things that I look for, so I don't really have too much to add there. The only thing I will say is I do go in and I'll look at things like advanced PFF stats, right? I want to know how many big time throws you had, how many turnover worthy plays, which areas of the field you throw well to, which you do not, what kind of completion percentage you have, and fixed, like adjusted completion percentage, right? PFF does all of that for you. Those are things that I definitely think about. And then I try to make sure that it matches with the system you're going to. I think a really good example is like Justin Herbert now, right? I think a lot of people have mixed feelings on Justin Herbert because he's now in this situation that is likely more of a game manager type quarterback role where he's never really, that's not really his style, right? This is a big arm. This is like a gunslinging type quarterback. So how do we feel, right? And I think on top of that, it's like they went and fixed his offensive line where it should be good for a very long time. He has basically the two, maybe like the best tackle duo in the NFL with Alt and Slater. How do you value that versus having maybe the top weapons like a Joe Burrow, right, with Chase and Higgins? How does that start to mesh? How do you think about those things? It's all really interesting, and it's almost impossible to get right? That's why every year we're coming back to this list and making adjustments. One thing that I will say as well, when I'm starting to do this list, I always put a negative if a guy's a rookie. Like it's almost like that is a knock on you. It's not necessarily a positive thing. I like to see. There's a reason Herbert, Stroud, Love, Lawrence, Lamar, Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes are at the top of this list because those are quarterbacks that are still very young, but have proven to me that they can play at a high level in the NFL. All of the rookies have not done that yet, right? All of these rookies could go in and bust. And that's basically what we saw happen with Trevor Lawrence's class. And I think that's actually how we came up with that kind of equation in the beginning. That was the first year. And we said, listen, 5 quarterbacks went in the first round. That doesn't happen very often. I don't feel great about all these guys, right? Like, I don't think just because a guy went top 10 means that he's a stud, surefire thing and he should be ranked above, I don't know a name further down, but maybe Baker Mayfield or, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. Like, are we really ranking them above them just because he's a young quarterback that got drafted highly? In my opinion, the answer is no, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that's just a surefire way to get in the top 10, just being a young guy drafted in the top 10. Not surefire for me. So when you said that it's a guarantee Caleb Williams is on this list, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I don't think it's a guarantee Caleb Williams is on this list. And I'll tell you a few reasons why, right? Not just because he's a rookie and we need to see how his game translates. They did a great job getting him weapons. He has a ton of amazing weapons, but the offensive line is still not my favorite by any means. If you listen to this podcast, you know how I feel about his right tackle. I don't think they've made it can't miss offensive line. I don't think they've done that for him. So for me, if there's going to be a flaw in his game, it's that the offensive line is going to be super weak and it's going to show. Will that happen? Probably not, right? Because he has the weapons that are going to get open quickly. If he can get the ball out of his hands quickly, that works. But that's the thing, right? If you go to PFF Advanced Statistics and you go to his time to throw in college, it's somewhere like 3.6. It's really, really high. And that's not necessarily his game. So I would have liked to seen them get an offensive line for him. But now it's like, and then sometimes it's kind of gut feel, right? Like where in reality are you taking Caleb Williams on this list? Are you taking him over Mahomes, Allen, Burrow? No, I'm not. Are you?
No.
Okay. Are you taking him above Lamar, Lawrence, Stroud?
I think Stroud's going to probably be a bit higher on this list when it's all said and done for the rankings for this year, but I think I'd have Caleb in there. I think I'd have Caleb right in there.
Okay, where? So, like, if the rankings were how they are now, where are you slotting him?
It's tough because right now it's like I would slot him somewhere because I would have him above one of these players. At least one of these players, but I would have one of these other players that are ranked lower above him. So if I'm going to take it as is, right, let's say the top 3 are the top 3. You can argue about Burrow versus Allen, 2, 3, what have you. But that's the top 3.
Yep.
4 through 6, I think it's important to reorder them because I would have 4 through 6, and let's make it 4 through 7 because I kind of gave away where Caleb Williams would be, that he would fall into that grouping here. I think I would have Stroud 4, Caleb 5, and then Jackson and Lawrence at 6 and 7. I think Caleb is 5th for me.
Wow. So is there something
darn good?
So it's just that he's that good, or is there something about Lamar and Lawrence that is like a negative to you?
So the thing about Lamar, I love Lamar. I mean, so these are both my quarterbacks. You see, I have the option to drop them. These are both my quarterbacks, and that gives me a ton of headache because they're both kind of streaky, and so I've just been getting burned in trying to make weekly start-sit decisions with these guys. By the way, it's very tough. I need to pay more attention to our data in order to help me with that. By the way, but in any event, as it relates to Lamar, he's obviously fantastic. The issue there, though, is unlike other quarterbacks in this era of football, his style of play, he's not going to be the same when he's 35 or 34, or maybe even 33. So while he has improved in the past, that's not a knock on his passing. What makes him great and elite is something that's not going to be there long-term as it will be for someone like a Burrow. And so longevity plays a bit of a part in that, as well as his weapons aren't the greatest. And he's made plays and done well despite that already. But can he do that when some of what makes him special and unique starts to erode if that situation doesn't necessarily improve? I like Tez Walker. I don't think he necessarily solves those problems. Mark Andrews is going to be getting older as well. So I just think there's a little bit of fog as you look into the future for Lamar Jackson on several fronts there. So that is what kind of pushes him down behind someone like Stroud, who obviously is very young, has already proven he can play at a very high level, is only going to get better, has great, his weapons and situation has only improved already. I do have a bit of a concern again that I like the system he's in and what happens to that when Bobby Slowick eventually inevitably takes an NFL head coaching job. So that is one factor to consider with Stroud. But the longevity questions or concerns, not just with Lamar physically, but the situation around him and how that there's no clear path to that being great in, say, 24 months. I just think highly enough of Caleb Williams to put him above him because of those reasons. And if I try to check myself and say, if the NFL had a startup draft again tomorrow, and obviously quarterbacks would be flying off the board first, Lamar might go ahead of him, and that's understandable. I don't think he'd go far ahead of him, though. And so that's why I kind of have him right here in this tier. And Lamar is kind of like that tier line for me, that gut check.
That's so interesting. And the reason I struggle with that, right, is because Lamar is a bit streaky in the way he plays and the way he grades. I'll give you that. But he now has 2 seasons in recent years where he's played above 90 with his season grade, right? Which is like elite. Look at Mahomes, right? He had an 85, like having a 90 plus, right? There's 2 there, 2019, 2023. And the other years aren't bad. 2021 was rough, but the other years are not bad. So getting to that level and having that upside is extremely valuable and extremely rare. Like Stroud had a great rookie season, 82.8, but he's not touching 90 yet, right? And I'm not saying he won't. He probably will, but he's not doing it yet. I also worry about getting Diggs. To me is great, but it's probably a 1-year flyer, right? And we've had this conversation. We don't need to have it again, but it's a 1-year flyer. So like, is the receiving core really better for his outlook, right? Can you really work that into his dynasty value? You can for 1 year if you're trying to win, right? If you're trying to win right now, you can. But if you're looking for like dynasty value outlook 5 years, like, no, I don't think it matters at all. Like, I actually don't think it matters at all. So I'm just a little weary, right? I think Stroud's amazing. Trevor Lawrence, I think the situation will always hold him back. So that's why I have him a little lower. I don't think there's any question that situation is just always going to be tough for him his entire career. I like that they got receiver, right? We talked about that. So I think they're obviously trying to keep him around and make sure that he's happy. But it's just always going to be hard. They're always going to have to overpay players to be there. And I don't love that. And then when you start going down the list a little bit more, right? Like where you have Herbert, Love, and Tua, right? Like the Herbert situation we already talked about. But Love looked amazing last year. And I understand it was his first year starting. We'll have to see if it continues, right? Will defenses start to figure him out? I don't know. But he played extremely well in the 1 year we saw him. And it's a really stable situation. He's got really good weapons all over the place, right? Young weapons that are going to grow with him. And nobody's really been paid on that offense. So you could kind of continue to like do stuff to that offense to make it better, right? For the long term. So I really do like that. And again, I saw it. So I wanted to bring up like a really interesting kind of situation that happened maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. But do you remember when, and this is a baseball reference, but when Aaron Judge came up into the MLB, it was the same year that Cody Bellinger came up, and the two of them won offensive or player of the years, MVPs, rookie of the years, excuse me. They both won rookie of the years. Aaron Judge was like 23 or 24, and Cody Bellinger was like 19 or 20. And everybody was saying, obviously, I'd rather have Cody Bellinger because he's younger, and you're talking about 5 years of extra production that you can get by having a player like that. And again, I'm making up the ages. I don't know what the difference was. But like, it really only matters what you see on the field and can it translate? And yes, obviously you want to see that it continues to grow and be able to predict the situation. But like, I've seen Jordan Love be great on the football field. I've seen Tua be great on the football field. And Tua I've seen be consistently great once they started to put weapons around him. I have no idea what Caleb Williams is going to look like on an NFL field, right? I could try to predict, I could try to imagine, but I really have no idea when he gets on the field. Will he improve on that 3.7 seconds timing to throw behind that bad offensive line? And are we sure it's going to be great? I think because of the player that he is, and I agree with you, he's a really special talent. He's going to figure it out, and he's at least going to be good. But to me, if you scroll down a little bit, that's kind of what Kyler Murray is, right? Like Kyler Murray's a really good quarterback that had a really rough situation for a lot of his career, and he's just kind of been middling quarterback in the NFL. So are we sure, after never seeing Caleb Williams play football on an NFL field, that he's going to be so much better than Kyler Murray? I think like from a pure prospect perspective, the answer is yes. But how much better can we really assume that he's going to be after not seeing him? Do we really think can we really think he's better than I'm not saying Jordan Love and Tua are elite. They're maybe right below that, but can we just dump him in that elite group and say he's in there?
I can. I'm the risk taker though. I told you that. That's why I prefaced this whole conversation with, hey, I'm the ceiling guy. And if I feel strongly about a guy like I do Caleb when it comes to the quarterback position, I'm going to take the chance. It's very rare that I do when it comes to quarterback in particular. I don't fall in love easily with quarterbacks. Even I liked Trevor Lawrence a ton. I wasn't in love with Trevor. I'm not in love with Caleb Williams either, but the quarterback prospect, Caleb Williams, absolutely smitten with. So for me, yeah, I'm just taking that chance. The other thing is his offensive line was not very good at USC either. They were not good at all, to be honest. So
he did have a downgraded year though.
That. Sure. He also had to, we've had all these discussions already, but it's also another thing where you have to score 50 points to win a game. Even if you're playing against like UNLV, you have to score in the 40s. Mm-hmm. That changes the way you play the game in the position, because you have zero margin for error, and that makes it tough. So I think there were a lot of things that played into some of the issues that he had. And even so, that's starting to nitpick again because he was still by and large phenomenal. But I think that plays into a lot of the issues that were there at USC. And yes, the NFL is tougher. It's different, but he doesn't have the worst defense you've ever seen with the Chicago Bears right now. I mean, it was a joke what he had to deal with at USC. I've tried to burn that guy's the defensive coordinator's name, Alex Grinch, the worst defensive coordinator I've ever seen at any level of football. He doesn't have that anymore. So I think you are going to see a bit more of a, not conservative, but a bit more like level-headedness to his game quite a bit. He's going to make rookie mistakes, but I don't think he's going to make rookie mistakes because he is doing a spin move 3 different times in the backfield and then, throwing off platform 30 yards downfield, because you can't get away with that in the NFL the way you can in the Pac-12. Rest in peace, Pac-12. I think by and large, I think that ceiling is going to be close to met. I think he's going to hit the upper tier of his possibilities, of his possible outcomes in the NFL. And to me, it's worth it. It's worth it. Okay. To me, I totally get someone saying, "Hey, I've seen it with Love already. I've seen it with," so I get that. It's you know,
Mhm.
what's your sort of tolerance? What's your risk tolerance?
Yeah, and I almost wish Bobby was on this one too because like we need a tiebreaker because I
He
I,
would
I
go with you.
truly
He would go with you.
I
He's
agree
way, yeah, he's
because
way
like if you
more
look at Hurts,
than me.
Dak, and Purdy, I'd understand the argument that he deserves to be above those guys because Hurts is definitely in the best situation and has been good but not incredible. Dak is getting a little older. He's already over 30 and his contract isn't long term there. So we don't necessarily know if he's in that situation much longer, but he's been a really good grader. And then Purdy being young, but like they don't really have a lot invested in him. They technically could move on at any moment, right? And until we get that money deal on Purdy's name, I don't know if I'm trusting that the 49ers, being that the 49ers are kind of like very cavalier with this stuff, I don't know if I'm just trusting that they're going to just commit to Brock Purdy. So I don't know if I would understand the argument that Caleb should be ranked higher than Purdy. It's that next group that I struggle with. And it really, I guess the question to you, right? You own a franchise, you have one quarterback. I see that you have three really good ones, right? But if you have one quarterback and it's Jordan Love, and somebody says, I'll give you Caleb straight up for Jordan Love, you're just smashing accept.
Damn. That is a tough question.
That's the conversation, right? That's exactly what we're trying to figure out today. What point
Okay,
on this
well,
list do you
let's say
hit
this.
accept?
Okay, first off, this is why it's so damn hard. Every week, okay, it was hard when I just had Lawrence and Jackson to try to decide who I was starting that week. I was able to get Jordan Love, and now it's like, forget about it. So that's number
you
one.
finished near the bottom a lot. We get it.
I had the most points scored against, I think, of anyone on the platform last year. Yeah, don't fact check that. But I would have Love, not to change the conversation, I would have Love above Herbert in this list. So there's that. So I think Love is they're in that, and Love is probably closer to me to the Jackson, Lawrence, Williams tier than he is to Herbert, who would, I guess, be the next name behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's closer to those names than he is to Herbert.
So that is like the conversation in my head when I did this was there is something to like a guy's played he's still 26 years old. They're only half a year apart. And this dude has 4 or 5 really good years compared to one, right? And I think that is important, right?
It's tough. But to answer your question, I'm not going to be a coward. Yeah. If
you
want to,
I
don't know what pick you have in the rookie draft. If you get the first pick and you pick Caleb Williams and you propose the trade to me for Jordan Love, and you
don't have the other quarterbacks.
You get your boy.
You don't have the other quarterback.
I know.
That's the conversation, right? It's like your starting quarterback is just Jordan Love. You would trade him straight up for Caleb Williams. The answer is yes for you, because the answer is no for me.
Yes, because if it's a hit, 15 years, I have a top-notch quarterback. 15 years. Every rookie class.
You have that with Jordan Love. You have you have the what's the thing in hand?
A bird in the hand, bird in the bush.
Yeah, bird in the hand.
Okay,
bird is in the hand, man.
I told you, I'm the risk taker. I'm gambling. I'm throwing I'm rolling.
Is there anybody else on this list above Jordan Love that you would say, like, where's the point where you say no? Are you doing it for Stroud, who's 22? You're just flipping them?
Here's where it gets very tough. Well, no, because I said I would have Stroud next and then Caleb. Is that what I said?
Maybe.
I think I had Stroud 4, Caleb 5.
Above Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
And then I have both of those situations, you're hitting accept.
If you offered me Caleb for Lawrence or Jackson, yes, I'm hitting yes. Stroud, I have 4.
Funny, I would 5. For those guys, I would too. But I understand I made the rankings, but like I had to think about other people too and how they
send your anger to Chris. You just heard it. He made the rankings.
Yeah. But I'm saying I had to make it so that people would agree, right? Like this is more consensus than what I think.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. Like if somebody offered me Caleb for Lamar, I'm probably hitting yes because Lamar's going to be 28 next year, and he's a running quarterback. And at 32, we have no idea if he's still going to be in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, I hate his situation. I think it's a really bad situation, and I don't really know how they can make it much better considering where they are and how they typically pick. Stroud, I probably would say no to Stroud. Herbert, I would say no to Herbert. Love, I would say no to Love. I would probably say yes to Tua. So Stroud, Herbert, and Love to me are above Lamar and Lawrence, but I understand that's not how other people necessarily think, right? So for me, just based on the list that we have in front of me, Caleb Williams would be right behind Jordan Love, in between Love and Tua. So how do we settle this?
Love and Tua. So I have him 5, right? I have Caleb 5, and you have him. You have top 3. You said you'd have him above Lawrence and Jackson, but behind Stroud and Love. So you have him 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have him 7. I would have him behind Herbert.
7. Oh, you have him behind Herbert. So then you split the difference, and he's 6th. If I have him 5th, you have him 7th.
But like, I think we have to place him on this list, not just like where we would have him. This is like more consensus, right? We're working with like a consensus big board. There's other people picking.
So you have him behind. You have him behind
Love. In front of Tua, behind Love.
Yeah. So we both have him behind Stroud. You have him behind Herbert and Love. I have him in front of both of those guys. So who do you have higher between Herbert and Love?
Herbert. So in between Herbert and Love.
So then he would be behind Herbert in front of Love. So he'd be behind Stroud and Herbert in front of Love, and that's how you split the difference. So,
Packers fans out there, I'm so sorry. This is not my decision. I disagree with it.
Oh my gosh.
But I think that's a good compromise. And we've been talking about Caleb Williams for 31 minutes, and there's 6 of these guys.
I think there's a book about not splitting the difference, but we just did that. So, okay, so consensus, Caleb Williams is 6th, ahead of Love, behind Herbert, Stroud, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes. I think most people
on this list, he's 8. So just to be very clear for people out there, because you're making up your own rankings. He's 8 on this list. He would be 8. He would fall 8th, which is still insane for a guy that's never seen an NFL field.
Plenty of time for us to adjust these rankings.
True. Jayden Daniels now. This is where it gets really, really hard, because we both talked about how, like, in reality, neither of us love Jayden Daniels. He's good. He's promising, and I think he's got a really nice floor on him. But in terms of, like, do we think he's just surefire, like, anywhere near as close Caleb Williams is? In my opinion, absolutely not. I think he's much lower on this list.
Yeah, the problem is there's a very good chance he's just not good. And where do you slot that? Because now we're literally talking high ceiling, low floor. There's so much variance in between.
I think we got to scroll down. Let's scroll down a little bit.
We're going to scroll down, but it's...
So, like, okay, Paul, just pause. We'll have the conversation, right? So, like, Purdy, Prescott, Hurts, Murray, I don't think he's anywhere close to those guys. I think Cousins, with his age, and I think you could have the conversation. I won't, because I think that the grading for Cousins is just so high that there's so much value there. And the same thing with Goff, and Goff's not even 30 yet. I don't think he's better than Bryce Young. I don't think he's better than Anthony Richardson as prospects. Is he better than Will Levis? That's probably where I start to think about slotting him in. And it's a situation, right? He has the receivers, but the offensive line is not good in Washington. They, had a lot of draft picks. I think they did a really nice job in this draft. They added a lot of really good players, but the offensive line is not fixed, and it's not going to be fixed probably for a few years. How much does that matter? How much are we weighing that here? How much do we like the coach?
I weigh on it a ton, because I don't. So I weigh those factors a whole lot. I think a player like this should not go to a place like Washington. I don't. I mean, this isn't Quinn's forte anyway. The offensive line was not fixed. The weapons are okay. They're fine. I'm not sure how well they fit with someone like Daniels.
Right. They're good, but they might not fit well.
Yeah, like Jahan Dotson is not that type of receiver. McLaurin, I think, can be that downfield threat. He can kind of make those plays happen. Dotson is more of the route running, the timing, the smoothness. He has a big catch radius, but
they took Luke McCaffrey in the 3rd, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, there you go. Championship.
I'm just saying it's interesting.
I look at it and go, I think regarding, forgetting for a second, well, how long is Caleb Williams, Kirk Cousins going to be able to play at this level, because they just drafted his replacement and now the clock is ticking? Is it 2 years? Is it 3? We don't know. Putting that aside for a second, I really zero in. You have Young, Richardson, Levis. I liked Young more as a prospect. Was in a horrendous situation last year. I think everyone knows basically to throw that out. That was year 0. This is year 1.
The situation is so much better now.
Yeah. And it's still not fantastic, but it's better.
It's a lot better. The offensive line, I would say, is legitimately good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's good. It's good.
Pretty good.
They might have the best interior offensive line in the NFL besides maybe the Cowboys.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Because we're talking about Anthony Richardson here in this trio. He's got a pretty darn solid interior up front too, even though hasn't been quite as good as it was in recent years. Mm-hmm. That's another thing where he basically had a lost year also for different reasons.
Yep.
I feel like him and Daniels are kind of in that same mold. Yes, there's differences in the game. I'm not calling them the exact same player. I like the Colts situation better than I do in Washington. I think because of that, given that they're both unknowns, they're both high upside players with low floors, they're kind of boom or bust. I think I would slot him behind Richardson. I would slot him ahead of Levis. And so I think if you're looking at that tier, I go Young, Richardson, Daniels, and then Levis. And then you have the 36 and 40-year-olds behind them that obviously are better players today in Stafford and Rodgers. But just looking at this tier, that's how I would have them.
Yeah. Is it crazy that we have Stafford below Cousins and Goff?
No, because Cousins grades exceptionally well. And I think, well, now Cousins is injured too. But
yeah, it's like with injuries, they're like a year apart. Does it that's pretty good grading, right? That's solid.
Yeah, 67 ain't that great. I mean, you want to look at some consistency here. I mean, Cousins has a consistency. Cousins gets a lot of flack. But he grades very well. And it's just that he doesn't make the value add. Yeah. He doesn't do the value add playmaking stuff to get over the hump after 5 p.m. apparently, but also in the playoffs. So he gets a bad rap, but down and during the season, he's very good. So these numbers here consistently were higher than Stafford. And Stafford was in a bad situation too. So that's part of it, but that's why, Cousins has consistently graded better than Stafford in the last couple of years. And that's why.
Would you change the order of the guys you see on the screen? Like, would you have Young and Richardson above Cousins and Goff or Kyler? Like where does that, or is this pretty good?
I think this is pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't have any of these guys above Kyler. I mean, Kyler, the line is still not great, but they're young and have some talent now. He finally, he has Marvin Harrison Jr. now.
The thing is, though, like if you're in a startup draft, in my opinion, there's no shot I'm taking Cousins or Goff over Richardson or Young. That's where it gets so tricky.
The thing about Goff is he's not kind of young, but he's not old. And it's to the point where even if I don't have a high opinion of him specifically, the totality of his situation, I mean, it's only getting better. And so at what point do I just unrelentingly just say, fine, all right.
Was 2023 an outlier though? Like look at the other years. It's not like he's not Kirk Cousins. He's not Matthew Stafford. He's never been that. The thing is he's 7 years younger than those guys.
He goes as his situation goes, and the situation is good now. It got good last year, and it's going to be very good again. Health permitting, going to be very good again this year and the year after. I mean, Penei Sewell's not going anywhere. Amon-Ra St. Brown is young. Jahmyr Gibbs entering his set. Like he's got something in place now.
He needs a contract extension too, though.
And I think they're going to give it to him, even if that's a whole separate discussion, whether you would or not, if you were Detroit, because I do think he's along for the ride more so than actually driving that bus, but he's proven to be a pretty good defensive driver and not crash the bus. And so that counts for something when you as a veteran can settle into your role in that situation and not screw it up and allow your situation to, to help you out and make plays around you and use that offensive line to your advantage to grade in the mid 80s. I don't think he's going to get worse at that. And the situation is not getting worse. So I don't move him down.
Okay.
And I think it's a long conversation about the startup draft, but I definitely don't move him down. I would probably move him above Cousins.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, going back then, if we're saying that it's Young, you were saying it's Young, Richardson, Daniels, Levis. I think I think you're close. I don't know I think the conversation is Richardson and Daniels and where you have those guys, right? And I think Richardson is actually younger than Daniels with some NFL experience, but what you saw was extremely inconsistent. I have more injury concerns with Richardson than I do Daniels because of the way they play football. Richardson is this insane athlete, maybe a better athlete than anyone else in the NFL, but he doesn't necessarily know how to be a running back, where I think Daniels does.
Daniels got his
he did
pop too, though. Like
he did, but he moves different than like Richardson's. Like, I don't think he really knows how to do it yet. And like, it's fine because he's not even 22 years old. He's younger. Again, he's younger than Daniels, but you're saying it's clear that the situation's better. I don't know if that's a guarantee. I think it's good. I think it's similarly good, right? Like, it depends on what you think of the weapons too. Like, I think McLaurin is the best receiver out of that bunch, and I don't even think it's like particularly close.
No, it's not. He is.
The offensive line, yeah, the Colts offensive line is better, but again, Daniels is a better runner. I think I probably have Daniels above Richardson, but
what are they going to ask him to do though? That's the other thing. How much is on his plate versus Daniels? Like, I think there's more on Daniels' plate in Washington than there is in Richardson's in Indy. And that's what scares me, is I don't think he's ready for that.
Do you think Daniels is a better thrower than Richardson is? Like a pure like timing system? Like, I think yes. Daniels is better.
Neither are consistent, but yes.
So with that, it's like I think Richardson is the bigger risk, is what I'm saying. I think the upside is bigger. I think the floor ceiling scale, Richardson's is this, Daniels is this. So like, it's really what you're chasing. Are you chasing Richardson's high upside, or are you comfortable with, maybe Daniels having a slightly higher floor, right? For me, I probably go Daniels, but I will let you have this one. Let's go young Richardson.
What a guy.
Yeah, I'm a good dude. And
that's fair. You're right. And we established that, that's me. I will chase that variant. So makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I also like the coach way better in Indianapolis. And I think that needs to be talked about, right? Like, I think that situation from a coaching standpoint should be stable for the duration of Anthony Richardson's time there, whether he succeeds or fails. I think Daniels, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think Dan Quinn's going to have a short leash where if he doesn't really prove that he can do it with what he just did in them drafting that quarterback, he's probably out. Drake May is even more interesting conversation because we liked him better than Daniels, right? He gets drafted one spot below, so that doesn't really matter. But the situation is probably the worst situation now in the NFL. And I don't even think it's close. Like, it is the worst situation in the NFL to go behind. The offensive line, thank God they kept on Winu, but like, that's all they have. The center's not bad, so they have maybe a guard and a center. Nothing else. The receivers, right? They drafted Jalen Polk in the second round, and then they got Javon Baker. Those are good weapons to have, but neither of them are changing that situation from what it was, right? Are either of them an upgrade over Juju Smith and other guys that are on that team already? My answer, absolutely not. I think it's probably similar boat. I like Polk. I don't love Polk. So how do you start to value May? And also, the other thing is like, I understand Belichick leaving. People are thinking it's maybe a positive thing for New England. I don't know if that's true. And I don't think Jared Mayo, right, is the coach. I have no trust in Jared Mayo making that a great situation. I have absolutely none, right? Like, he's a defensive guy too. So like, why do I think that he's going to make that situation great for Drake May and help him figure it out? I have no faith.
Yeah, this is one where if I'm in a rookie draft, I'm just taking the best position player elsewhere instead of May, which is a shame because I thought if he went to the right place, and I thought he fit much better with Washington than he did New England, or does New England. I can't get behind a situation like this. Years and years of poor drafting has caught up to the Patriots roster to where this is the type of thing where no matter how much you like Drake May as a prospect, with the understanding that he does have some flaws and things to work out, those were discussed. It seems like there was a coordinated effort to really push that in the weeks leading up to the draft. So there's no need to rehash all of that. But you look back 3 years from now and you go, of course he didn't succeed. I mean, look at what he went into. That's how I see this situation. So in a startup, in all honesty, I'm oh gosh, especially in all 22, I'll take Stafford, I'll take Rodgers, and
Really?
yeah, and then what I'll do is in 2 years or something, then I'll go and try to find my rookie then. I'm not going to put my neck out there for a rookie behind throwing to the worst receiving core in the league and behind a below average offensive line where they have 1 3/4 quality players there. I can't do it. I can't playing the Jets defense twice a year. I can't. I can't do that. I would punt. So by punting, I start going to the vets like Stafford and Rodgers and Mayfield. Maybe we could have a conversation about Geno. And that's it. That's how I would play it. I would just start punting.
I would also punt. I would try to find a trade partner that's obsessed with May because I know there are a lot of them out there, and I like May, but the situation's really bad. What I will say though is like when you talk about Will Levis, if you go back 1 year, their offensive line was garbage. They had no weapons, right? Like, and it was kind of a similar situation than what the Patriots are now. And I feel like it's almost like in a year, will the Patriots draft their J.C. Latham and sign their DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and be a better situation, right? Like it only takes a year to get that much better because I don't think Tennessee's situation is great, right? Like they have one side of their offensive line being like decently good. They didn't get Joe Alt, right? Everybody thought they were going to get Joe Alt. They didn't. They got Latham, who I like, but I don't think he's a can't miss guy, right? Like I don't think he's just going to be the guy that's like an anchor and solves their offensive line woes. It's not that good. They did sign a couple other guys. I think they have Lloyd Cushenberry there at center now. So again, Tennessee got a little bit better, but from a pure prospect perspective, I like May more than I liked Levis, although I don't think it's like drastic. I do like May more than Levis. And since Levis is 25 already, I'd probably pick Drake May above Will Levis, even with the situations. Because I think I figured out kind of quick.
Yeah, because I also don't think the Titan situation is that great. I mean, Skoronski still has to show some more strength at the point of attack, period. Hopkins is he is old. He's up there in age for a receiver. Ridley gave a big deal too, but he's about to turn 30 as well. Burks hasn't panned out. I mean, it's year 3. This is really make or break at this point in his career. It's not a great situation either way still. It's better, of course, but it's better, but they have more tied up in those guys than the Patriots do. So at least the Patriots have that bit of a blank slate where there's more room to improve there. They have more assets to do so. They're not as tied down as the Titans are, which I think is what you're getting at too. So yeah, so I think we both then. Well, then we have to move down to Levis.
Well, I don't know. I don't know though. Like I would take May. We disagree on this, but like in a startup draft, right? If I have to choose between 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers or 22-year-old Drake May, I'm going to take Drake May because I'm. Mm-hmm. And this is the conversation we always go back and forth on. It's like when we talk fantasy football, you always say 15 years, and I think that's hilarious because anything can happen in 3 to 5 years. That like nothing is guaranteed further than that. Like Anthony Richardson, for example, like my comp for him coming out was RG3. Their upside is insane, but if they get injured and that athleticism goes away, they're not so great at passing the football yet that they're just going to be able to be a pocket quarterback out of the box. So that's like a huge concern for me, right? Like, so 3 years, we don't know what Anthony Richardson really is going to be. I'm not saying for 15 years, right? I just don't agree with that. So it's really, would I rather have Aaron Rodgers for the next 5 years or Drake May for the next 5 years? 3 to 5, right? 3 to 5. And that's the point is like Aaron Rodgers won't be there. So I'd rather have
like 12 months.
Right. I'd rather have what I know is 4 years of a rookie contract of Drake May than 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to take Drake May over Stafford, Rodgers, Baker. I think Baker just because again, he's on his 3rd team or 4th team. And like, I like Baker and there's a chance I would maybe go Baker over May, but there's a conversation to be had there. And again, that's probably I would trade back and I would draft Baker and let somebody take May above me. But I think May is slotted between Daniels and Levis.
Yeah, you convinced me. And to be fair though, there are only certain players I consider 15-year players. like I said, Jackson, I think because of his style, can't be. I definitely don't consider Daniels a 15-year player, even if he's a hit, ends up being, right? Just different styles.
Yep.
Caleb is just that dude to me. But yeah, so I think, okay, so we have him above Levis after Richardson.
After Daniels, yep.
After Daniels, yeah, after Daniels, yep.
Yeah, so it's Richardson, Daniels, May, Levis, Stafford, Rogers, Mayfield, Geno. So that, and then the conversation gets like way more interesting, right? Because those three guys we know are going to go in, be starters, and at least have an opportunity to show what they can be quickly. Michael Penix was the fourth quarterback off the board, and he goes to a situation where he's going to be sitting for probably at least 2 years behind Kirk Cousins, bearing injuries. And he's already an older prospect, which made it even more curious. But you know that I'm the guy that's like a let him sit, right? Like I love let him sit guys. Like I'm always going to buy that. I'm going to buy into it when a team picks them early enough where they're that invested. It's different if they're a third round pick, like a Mason Rudolph. Like those guys don't matter. The team's not really invested in you. He's invested in you as a backup. But when they take you top, even in the first round, really, they have invested in you, and they're going to make sure that at some point they get to see what you can be on the football field. They will. When you're taking top 10, they will absolutely make sure that they see what you are on the field before deciding. Saying that again, Kirk Cousins will be there for at least 1 year, probably 2 to 3. We're not going to see him. We're not going to see Michael Penix for a few years. I don't necessarily know what to make of that and where we start ranking a guy like that.
Yeah, I have no clue. And what I then lean on when I have no clue, and there's something as glaring as Penix's injury history and issues with that, I start to play it safe, because unless he's good enough for me to take the risk of now just how long can you physically last, I have to err on the side of caution there and start downgrading you in my rankings, because I already have to wait, let's say 2 years. Let's just say 2 years, not a full 3 or 4. So I wait 2 full football seasons. Now you're a first-year starter. Now you're entering like contract extension time, so you don't even get the benefit of like the rookie contract that your team can just build a bunch of, a squad around you to kind of help you out, like you see with a lot of the other rookies. Mm-hmm. That get drafted and play early, because they already have the Cousins contract on the books right now. As soon as that gets done, it's time for you to be extended. And so they never built a team like a squad around you before you took the field as the starter. But so he already loses. We don't know, because Arthur Smith would rather throw it to whoever the fourth string tight end was on like some goofy end around throwback pass, instead of just trying to see what Kyle Pitts and Drake London can do. I think he has 2 very good prototype weapons, but what else? The line is good. But by the time he takes the field, they're going to have paid those guys. Their contracts are about to be up. So even his weapons are not on a cheap deal anymore.
Yeah. And Jake Matthews, McGarry, like those guys aren't super young. Like I think Matthews might already be 28, 29 years old. 2-3 years from now, like tackles can play into their 30s and it's like basically fine. Mm-hmm. But you start to worry, right? Like you have to start to build that back up. Who knows what they do in the next 2-3 drafts though, right? Like they could be fine, right? Like it's a really difficult conversation. And it needs to go into that conversation of either if the board is there, you have to take quarterback and these are the guys that are on the board. Which one are you taking? Or it's somebody offers you this player straight up for that player. Are you accepting the deal? And it's like, if somebody offers you Aaron Rodgers, and again, like you're competing for 3 to 5 years, somebody offers you Aaron Rodgers for Michael Penix, are you hitting accept?
Yes.
If somebody offers you Baker Mayfield, are you hitting accept?
Yeah, keep going.
Geno?
Yep.
See, I don't think I'm accepting Geno.
Really?
I think that's probably where I draw a line in the sand. Because I don't think Geno's going to be there for more than it's a new coach. It's a new coach. They didn't bring him in. He's been good, not great. He has great weapons. And again, hasn't been great. is he the long-term answer there? Like, I think there's just as much of a question with Geno being there in 2 years as Penix being good in 2 years.
I think, yeah, they're the inverse of each other. You're getting someone probably for 2 years. I think you could safely say 2 years for Geno, and then who knows after that.
I don't know, but okay. Let's just assume.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then, I mean, same goes for well, maybe not, at least 1 year. I think with Watson's contract, you could say 2 as well. Whereas you kind of know you're not really going to see Penix for 2 years unless Cousins gets injured. We're not going to factor that in, and we obviously hope that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the inverse. It's what are you doing at that point? As far as are you going to just go for it now? And if so, then I mean, if you're competing for a championship, I think you want a little bit more than Geno Smith out there at the most important position on your roster.
Right.
But if you're not tanking, yeah. I don't know. If you're tanking,
it's like I said, the situation has to be that your roster is in a middling place and you're looking for 5 years. That's got to be the decision maker. That's how you have to look at this. I think for Russell Wilson, it's obvious you would take Penix because Wilson's been kicked out of the league almost, right? Derek Carr has been.
I don't know if it's obvious, man. You think it's obvious Wilson over Penix?
No. Honestly, because I think again, it's like I think people think that. I like Russell Wilson. I like what they've done on the offensive line in Pittsburgh to build that situation around him. I really liked Roman Wilson being the receiver they took. I think that makes total sense, right? And they already have George Pickens. Like, I honestly think the situation is great for Russell Wilson to be successful, but Russell Wilson is also going to be 36 years old this year and has already showed major signs of aging. Personally, yeah, I think somebody sends me Penix for Wilson, I'm hitting accept. I think Carr, same thing. It's like Carr's been underperforming. I don't necessarily think the Saints are super happy with him, although he finished last year spectacularly. He did great at the end of the year in the final weeks. If you go to weekly summary, I think you can probably see more of that, right? So if you scroll down, that's a lot of green at the bottom of that list. He did awesome at the end of the year. So was it just growing pains, him getting used to a new system and the pieces around him, and this is the Carr we're going to see? I don't know. Carr kind of always starts a year like a stiff old man and then like warms up and starts playing well. So I don't really know, but I think if you were to offer me a top 10 pick quarterback, I'm accepting that over Carr. Watson, I my situation on him. I'm not even going to talk about it. I would hit yes. And then Geno being the last one again. Yeah. Like you said, it's the inverse. I'd rather have Penix because I know that in 2 years I have a starter, where Geno, I really do believe, like, they went and traded for Sam Howell because I think they want a really good backup there always, because there might be a couple bad weeks in a row where the fans are calling for Geno's head and you have to play Sam Howell, right? And like, I just don't want that. I don't want that anywhere near my team. And I also think Pete Carroll is like one of the greatest coaches in the NFL, and anything else is a downgrade. So I think the situation is just immediately getting worse for Geno.
Man, no faith in Geno. Just improving every year.
He's awesome. He's like the kind of guy that like I root for every single time, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to value him in Dynasty.
Yeah, I just don't know. Again, though, it's like, okay, fine. Even if you're doing the inverse, that doesn't make Penix a long-term play either, because he's one hit away from being completely done. He has 2 torn ACLs, 2 major shoulder surgeries. Like, and he's old for his class, but even like his body age is like already 30. He's as old as Geno Smith, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
yeah,
that's how badly beaten his body has already been. So it's like, I don't know. If I don't consider either of them a true long-term option, at least I know one of them is playing for the next 2 years.
Are we at least on the same page that that's the line?
Yeah, it's right around here. Yeah, this is the line. Geno's the line, and it's just a matter of like, okay,
is he over it or under it?
Exactly.
Right, that's the conversation. Okay, all right. I mean, that's good. You gave me the last, or I gave you the last one, so you're going to give me this. He's going to be below Geno.
I thought I gave you the last one when I said you convinced me, and then
no, absolutely not. I convinced you. That's different.
I let you convince me. That was me letting you have that.
I'm not buying it.
I let you have the convincement. That's.
You know what? That's fine. I'll let you have this one because I think the next
I don't feel strongly enough about this next one.
The next conversation is going to be even worse.
He's tied with Geno Smith. We're just gonna have a tie.
Yeah,
in
they're
the
gonna be next
rankings.
to each other.
Yeah.
Can we do lateral
Have
lines?
fun with that, developers.
All right. The next conversation gets even harder, and it's McCarthy in Minnesota, right? Because this is a player that you didn't love. It's a player that I had as my fourth quarterback who went fifth, but he goes to the best situation besides, I don't even know if besides Caleb, like equivalent
No,
to
it's
Caleb.
besides Caleb.
No, I don't know
It's
about that. It's like the best receiver in the NFL is on the Vikings. The offensive line on the Vikings is better. The number 2 receiver on the Vikings is arguably, I don't know, might be similar to Rome. If you
I'm just saying we haven't seen DJ Moore with a good quarterback ever.
All right. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
I'm just saying.
So
and Hockenson is coming off of injury.
How do we start to? Because this is a guy that, like the coach already said, might not be the starter day one. So if you're thinking that he's going there and is just going to be given the situation and out of the gate is going to be the starter, that might not be the case. So how do we start talking about JJ McCarthy?
I think by week 5, I wouldn't do this, but I think he's going to be a starter by week 5. I think it's one of those things they say he's not the starter, but like, I don't know. I think he's going to be. And he went to such a good situation because he did that I got to start scrolling back up.
Oh,
I got to go somewhere around here. I got to go somewhere around here.
Wow. So potentially above Daniels and May.
Because I think each of those 3 in a vacuum, forgetting about landing spot for a second, May, Daniels, McCarthy, I think all have very low floors. And on the scale of hit to miss, are more likely to miss. That's been my take the whole time. This is closer to a 1 quarterback class than 2, but there is going to be a second just because, again, we're talking about 6 first-round picks. The other 5, we're going to have one of them hit.
2021 is calling and wants to disagree with you, right?
You're right. It might just be 1. It might end up being 1.
Right.
But the odds, you would think 1 in 5 would hit. And given that they went into a situation like this, the one that's more likely to hit is JJ, because they do, like, the only thing that he does pretty darn well is, a lot of the crossers and the motions and to kind of, get some yak guys. That's what he does. He's not going to be a timing guy, hitting, precise comeback routes and layering throws between defenders. That's not what he does. They play action, hit a crosser, roll out, have someone open. And then if you're up 30 against Michigan State, you could throw a go route that looks fantastic in your highlight film. And everybody forgets that you played Maryland and looked like you just couldn't, you were colorblind. So everyone forgets that. But
let me ask you a question though. Real quick.
Situation. Yeah.
I have to get in here. Does it concern you at all that it seems like JJ was a consolidation prize? Is that the word? I don't even know.
Consolation prize?
Consolation prize. Does that bother you at all? Where it was clear as day that they were trying to trade up for Drake May, couldn't get it done. They were sitting there at 11 or whatever it was. I think they traded up 1 spot maybe, and they get their quarterback, and it's like, that's not the guy they wanted, right? So like, is there a chance that the owner was like, hey, I understand this isn't who we were going for. If this guy doesn't work out, it's fine, but we have to at least shoot our shot. So draft him. And if he's not the guy a year or 2 from now, we'll find the next guy, right? Like, is there that concern with McCarthy that's not there for May and Daniels, maybe even Penix?
Oh yeah. You're about to get me on a soapbox, because when the NFL tells you something, you have to listen. Okay. When not all, a lot of collective you out there were screaming at the Giants and all these other teams, oh my gosh, how are you Dwayne Haskins should have been picked, and rest in peace. But I'm sorry, the NFL told you we don't think that highly of this guy. We don't.
Justin Fields.
He's not a top 5. He's not a top 10. He went, whatever it was, 16, whatever. And right away it was apparent. It wasn't going to end well. And then, Justin Fields. Some of us tried to tell you this guy can't see the field. He can't process. He holds the ball too long. This is not going to translate well to the NFL. Screaming for Justin Fields to go top 6, top 8. How could he fall? Because the NFL, for as much as they miss on quarterbacks and they whiff, if they take the pitch, if they don't even swing at the pitch, they are telling you something about that guy. Okay. The Steelers got lazy. Hometown kid, whatever, take Kenny Pickett. Nobody was touching Kenny Pickett there. Nobody. But it was
it was like pick 25.
Yeah. But it was still lazy. It was lazy. Without those ties, I don't think they make that pick. And so when the NFL tells you that, you have to listen. So here, I do think the NFL was telling us something, but a bit to a lesser extent, because he did go 11th, or was it 10th? I forget the exact pick.
I think
they traded up one pick. He was picking the top 12. So it wasn't that late. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, he's falling. I think it was more so the Giants don't like this guy. And so he's going to fall now probably to the back end of the top 10. Nobody feels strongly enough to trade up, like truly trade up for him, not just like swap a pick, just one spot.
That's what surprised me so much in the draft, was that the Giants didn't do that, because they hosted this guy twice or 3 times or whatever it was. They were talking about how much they loved him. He was talking about how he felt such a match with them. And I understand passing on him for Neighbors. Like, I totally get that. But like, when he started to fall, something was saying to me like, all right, the Giants are going to get on the phone. They're going to make this happen. They're going to get in there. They're going to get their guy.
Wild.
And they didn't do it.
We mocked it, but not McCarthy. But yeah, we did mock the trade up. And so does that tell you something? Or was that all smoke? It could have been, that happens pre-draft process. But if they did meet with him multiple times and didn't take him, that tells you something too. Because
correct,
Malik Neighbors looked like he just watched his dog get run over when he was entering the Giants facility. Like, he was not happy to be there. So I can't imagine that visit went spectacularly. Something tells me it probably didn't. If he met with the Giants pre-draft too. So yeah, they're telling us something. But I think what they're telling us, at least as it relates to you and I and many others too, is that, hey, we have reservations about this guy. Like, yeah, there's some things there that could probably be worked with.
Right.
But we're not quite sold. I don't think I'm going to sell my franchise out for him. So there's that. And I mean, the Vikings had another first too. So that also makes it a little easier for them to stomach, even if they do have those reservations. Whereas if they were out, then they would just be out, I guess.
Right.
So if it was me, I wouldn't have taken him if I was the Vikings.
So that's why I'm struggling with this conversation, because it's, again, Daniels and May were the picks. So was Penix, right? They were the picks for their team. The team wanted those players. They got them. Now we're sitting here with a guy that's in the best situation, but probably wasn't their guy, right? So like, it makes me so unsure. Like, I think if he's there as the 4th quarterback in a rookie draft, I'm probably considering taking him over Penix. But like that 4 or 5, if he's there, I'm taking him in a heartbeat, right? Maybe not, because Marvin Harrison might be there. But like, that's the conversation, right? It's like, if he's the quarterback and you're taking a quarterback and he's there at 4 or 5, you feel fine with it. But like, you're talking about, are we taking him over the other guys? And that gets really hard for me. Like, again, I'm probably just bailing. Like,
yeah, it's a bail situation. You hope the phone rings.
But like, do we really think that he's better than? So we had it, right? We had it. Levis, Penix, or no, May, Daniels. It was Levis, May, Daniels, Richardson, Young.
No, Levis was behind those guys.
Yeah. Levis, Levis, May, Daniels, Richardson, Young. I said that right.
You said that way wrong. Levis is at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, Levis is the bottom.
Oh, you're going up.
Yes, I'm going up.
Fine.
Where do we if you think he's part of that group, or maybe higher, where are we starting that? It's like a trade offer. If you're telling me it's this, and I'm going to say it's this, and then we're going to be in the middle, tell me where you're starting it.
I would not. So because I'm uplifting McCarthy because of situation. I don't think I could put him above Richardson, who I just said I kind of like his situation because they're not going to put a ton on his plate. Mm-hmm. He could bust, but at least they're not going to ask him to be Mr. Do-It-All as a quarterback and be the reason that they win their division and make the playoffs. Like, they're not asking him to do that right now. So I can't put him above Richardson, but I would put him then above May and Daniels because I think they're all in that tier where I think situation is going to be the difference maker for each of them. So he would, I guess, fall behind Richardson above May and Daniels.
Wow.
That's how I'd have it. And yeah, I just bail. I'd probably take the number one center. I'm probably taking Zach Frazier instead, but that's I guess how I'd have them ranked if we're just looking at the quarterbacks.
Yeah. See, okay. So I'm glad you kind of threw the ball up. Now I can do what I want with it, but it's kind of like the situation of, again, I think the NFL tells us things, and the NFL told us that they like May and Daniels more than this guy, and Penix too. Like, that's really the thing to me that like sticks out is like, all right, if you tell me that May and Daniels were above him, fine. And you tell me that he went like 2 spots later and it was a better situation, I'll talk about maybe ranking him above those guys. But he went like 10 picks later and he went behind another quarterback in Michael Penix. And that's where it gets really concerning to me. It's like there was another guy taken above him. If you wanted to tell me that he's above Penix because we're not going to see Penix for 2 years and the injury stuff and the age, I get it. I had him ranked higher, right? So like I get that. So we had Penix above Geno. It's kind of that same situation where am I taking Stafford and Rodgers above McCarthy? Probably not, but would I take Baker above McCarthy? Maybe. It's like, it's so tricky.
Both of their starting careers might be done in 4 years. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
I think this exercise takeaway is we got to move Baker up a little bit. Show more respect.
I agree. I'm taking Baker and I'm moving him up the list.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This is tough.
The clock already ran out on the pick. That's it. Like they jumped us.
Other
teams are turning in their cards right now.
I think and again, it's like, do I have Baker above Levis? Probably. I think I do.
We got to move Baker up.
So if we make that change, right, and we said Baker's above Levis, I think I would feel comfortable putting McCarthy behind Baker and above Levis. I don't think I feel good about putting him above May and Daniels because, again, it's like 2 years from now, that situation could look a lot better for both of those players if they continue to be bad, right? It's like next year the Patriots get their tackle. Maybe they sign top free agent wide receiver. Maybe they get T. Higgins. Maybe they get Ayuk. That situation's instantly like a lot better. And I'm kind of liking it for May, right? And I'm like, all right, they got the number one tackle. I think next year's tackle class is supposed to be awesome too, which is cool. So the Patriots, like next year they get their tackle. They had gotten their they signed Onwenu. They have their center. So half that line is good. They get Brandon Ayuk. Jalen Polk looks all right. And they have Javon Baker as like another threat. I kind of like it. It's okay. And it's probably like, again, it's like I like May in that situation more than I like McCarthy in his. It's just right now, knowing what we know with the Patriots, it's like, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. One other thing, just real quick. The Vikings traded like a lot of their picks next year. So I know they still have like their first round pick, but they have like after maybe their second, like I think they're missing their third, fourth, and fifth round pick. So it's not like they have like all this ammo in the world where that situation is going to get even better consistently for McCarthy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of tough. It's really, really tough. I think that's how I would have it. I would have it Daniels, May, Baker, McCarthy, Levis. Let me know what you think. Or are you sold that he needs to be above those other guys?
I don't think he should be at the bottom of that list. So you have. So who do you have above?
I have Levis at the bottom.
May or Daniels?
Both of them above him.
No, but I mean between the two of them.
We already did that.
I know. I'm just saying it again. It's for the exercise. Oh.
Okay. I think it was Daniels May. That's what I'm like. It was Young, Richardson, Daniels, May, Baker, McCarthy, Levis.
Baker, McCarthy. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that list.
Okay. Final guy's Bo Nix.
Fine. I'll let you have that one.
Cool. Last guy's Bo Nix. And again, he probably goes to the easiest, he's going to be the starter from day one situation of anyone else. He is clearly the best quarterback of that group, but he was the last quarterback taken of all the quarterbacks in this draft. He goes to an offense that's lacking basically any real firepower. Like, I know Courtland Sutton, people like him, but he's kind of aging out. A lot of injury stuff going on the last few years. Had one good year with Russ last year. Offensive line is decent, but I wouldn't say it's like a top offensive line in the NFL, and they lost their center, and I think they also lost one of their guards. The running back situation's fine, but like that's not a game changer. And then Sean Payton, you know, like I feel like he's kind of just cashing checks right now. I know that's not like a great thing to say, but like kind of feels that way when you just like kind of accept your fate in the draft and draft the guy that falls to you. If it's true he really wanted Nix, then he obviously hit a home run, but are you buying that?
I am buying that. I'm buying that he wanted it. Well, I mocked him in our mocks to Denver. That was my like surprise pick. And I think it also tells us that they stood there and took him. I think once they saw Penix off the board, they said, okay, we're not going to mess around. This is our guy. Mm-hmm. So they told us that he was their guy. As much as he wasn't ours or most people's guy, he was the Broncos guy.
I liked him more than I liked Penix.
You did. I didn't like either of them. But less than 2.5 seconds time to throw. I mean, that is so Sean Payton to a T. Like the criteria Sean Payton used to find Tony Romo is basically the criteria he's using to draft Bo Nix. And I am not saying Bo Nix is going to have as good of a career as Tony Romo, because that's not even close. But what I'm saying is Sean Payton clearly has his type. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson was very clearly not his type. And when Sean Payton has had his type, he's been very successful. I think you throw him right back in this same freaking tier, and you just like, I don't know what to do with it.
Wow.
Because of situation, like we could look like absolute fools if we go back on this and have May at like the top of the tier of the non-Caleb quarterbacks. And then we look back and say, well, look at what was around him. Like, how could you not have Bo Nix somewhere around there, given Sean Payton and his fit with the offense? That is very, very realistic. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not, I can't just be a total coward and be like, I didn't like this guy just because he went somewhere, and now I'm gonna just move him way up my list. I think I would put him behind Baker.
Remember, it was Baker.
Yeah,
it was Baker, McCarthy, Levis.
Right. Behind Baker, behind McCarthy. I just really don't like Levis, man. Like, I think I'd put him above Levis. I think that's what I do. I put him right behind McCarthy in front of Levis.
I'm in agreement. I agree with you. I don't think we need to fight this one. I'm kind of on board with that. And like, one other thing I really like that's like sneaky is they got him Troy Franklin, who was his number one receiver in Oregon. So it's like there is some comfort there. They did get another weapon. I think Franklin was severely underrated in the draft, even though like I didn't love him. I didn't think he was a first round pick like others did. I think they got him in the 3rd round. Like that's really good value for that player with that speed. And I think it offers a really nice, different kind of threat than Courtland Sutton offers. So the receiver room gets a little bit better. If you buy into Sean Payton, right, and that he's still in there working hard and he's going to try to figure this out. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think he's probably above Levis. As much as it pains me to say that, because like, yeah, like I don't know if I'm taking Nix over Stafford and Rodgers. Yeah, I guess I am. All right. Okay. That's where he is.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was surprised that one was so easy, but I think everything is so clear cut when it comes to Bo Nix that maybe it makes sense that it was that easy. It's like you didn't love the player. Sean Payton clearly loved the player, and it's clearly a fit. Okay, so where do you value that? And that's basically it. There's not much more to it than that.
we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, so we don't want to do Spencer Rattler, I'm assuming, because I don't.
I wasn't going to do Spencer Rattler anyway. He's
I know.
not on this. I think I put him above Will Levis.
Stop.
About it.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
I kind of had fun doing that, dude.
Yeah. I did not have fun doing that because I kind of like put myself in the position as if I needed a quarterback and had to draft these guys. And after Caleb, it's like, I don't think I want to do that. So if you need a quarterback and you're in a rookie draft, get the first pick.
Nah,
I think that's my takeaway.
I think pick 7 is the best pick in the world to have this year. Because it's like
startup or in the rookie. Oh, because you
in a rookie. Because it's like you're either getting Marvin Harrison, who's generational talent, and I actually believe he's generational talent, or you're getting a quarterback that's just falling to you because somebody else valued Marv more. And even pick 8's great because the same thing could happen if 2 receivers go, and if not, you have 2 really good receivers, right? It's like that's still a really valuable position. Or if you like alt and you need tackle, right? Like there's actually like in an all 22 rookie draft, it is a great year to have needs at valuable positions besides maybe edge rusher, because like they're all there. Like there's so many good tackles, there's so many good receivers. I'm not saying a lot of good quarterbacks, but there are a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be rosterable, I'll say. I don't know. It's going to be a really fun rookie draft.
I mean, they're all really fun rookie drafts. Like that's a given. So, but yeah, I'm glad I was able to basically round out my quarterback room last year with Lamar, with Lawrence, and with Love. Look at that, 3 L's. Live, laugh, love, right there. Yeah. Now I just have a headache every week about which one to start.
Good problem to have, dude. I have Rodgers, and he got hurt. I picked up Goff, who worked out really, really well last year, and I got pretty lucky. And then I also picked up Baker because somebody dropped Baker, which was insane. Mm-hmm. So I like lucked into a decent quarterback room, but I'm definitely getting old. And
you should draft Caleb and trade him to me.
Yeah, I would. If I had the pick, I would. But I always pick like 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, right? Like depending on the league size. Something you probably just wouldn't know much about, but
sure, yeah. But again, so like in a 12-team league, though, like some people may feel good enough about their quarterback to not take some of the swings that we had to in this exercise. So I could see them falling even a bit further. Like,
wow,
if I'm picking 8th, I think both Harrison and Neighbors are gone, possibly Alt. I would prep myself for that. I would think the big 3 are gone, and then after that, I wouldn't have any guarantees that any other quarterback goes before my pick, and I'd start prepping that way as far as my positional needs go.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that exercise in another episode and have some fun with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Always down for these exercises that make me think while I'm on cough medicine and
raising a child.
Stay awake. Yeah.
Cool. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at all22_PFF, and give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcast, and have a great day.